Welcome back, one and all. This is part 2 of breaking down docs. Let's get into it. Okay, brethren. Like I said, this is going to be long and lots of information. I think I might have to put in chapters just to make it easier to understand. Guys, I'm grateful that you've asked me to do this because it's something that I really enjoy doing, but it is a lot of information and you may have to watch it in small chunks. It's a heck of a lot of stuff that you've got to take in. So let's get into it. Okay. What I've done here is I've printed 2 views of a doc. So we've got the above view, and just now we're going to look at the side view. And this is what I want you to understand, okay? Obviously, this is going to be connected to the land in some way, and then out into the water, boats, boat lifts, possibly swim platforms out here, other docks joined onto it, whatever the case might be. For my South African brothers, not a lot of places in South Africa where this is going to happen. For my American brothers, there's 2 scenarios that we've got to look at here, okay? Southern lakes. Lakes that do not ice in the winter. The docks stay in the water year-round. And northern lakes, where they do have ice, the docks are usually put in as soon as possible after the ice comes off, going into the late spring. I'm not going to give months for that because it varies from state to state. So what we have in the southern docks, and I'm not saying that this doesn't happen in the northern docks, it will to a lesser degree, but in the southern docks, because they are in the water year-round, there is a very good opportunity for a dock to turn into an entire ecosystem by itself. The first thing that happens, and you need to understand this, guys, it's important, okay, is you'll start getting algae growth on all parts of the dock that are below the surface of the water. So the posts or the legs, any kind of cables that you've got going to the bank, stuff that's joining the dock to another dock or to a boat lift or to whatever the case might be. If it's below the water, it's going to get algae growth. What that does is that brings small fish to the dock. What that does is it brings slightly bigger fish to the dock to eat those small fish, and eventually the bass will follow. However, when I say this dock can be an entire ecosystem, I mean it. What a lot of dock owners do is they will position brush piles on the outside of the ends of the dock to attract crappies to their docks for them to catch, or their grandchildren to catch, or their guests to catch, or whatever the case might be. So that adds a whole new aspect to the dock. The dock itself creates shade. With every little part of this dock, it creates cover for the bass to live under, to hide under, to feed under, to spawn under in some cases. So it is like any other type of structure or cover of a natural variety on that lake. Okay, we've got that out the way. So now we've seen a top view of this. Basically, you've got a walkway coming out to the end of the dock where you might tie your boat up, or there might be a boat lift over here, or it might be tied into another dock, whatever the case is. That is just what a bog standard average dock looks like from the top. Okay, moving on. This is a side view of what the dock looks like, and this is quite a complicated one, but whatever. So here we would enter the dock from the land, and then all of these legs or posts in most southern lakes would be permanent, so they will not come out of the water. In the northern lakes, when it starts to get cold, again, I'm not going to mention a month because it varies from state to state, these front posts here and sometimes the side posts will have big wheels on them, and they will pull the docks out of the water before the water starts to ice, because ice will totally destroy the docks when it freezes around them. Okay. In the north, because the docks are only put into the water kind of late spring-ish, they've only got from late spring to late fall or autumn in the lake or the river, whatever the chosen body of water is. So although it does create an ecosystem, a man-made ecosystem at that particular point of the lake, it may not be as food rich as the docks in the southern lakes, because it only has X number of months a year to accumulate algae, baby fish, whatever the case is. That does not mean that you will not find bass under docks on northern lakes. Quite the contrary. Some of my most successful fishing that I have had personally in northern lakes, and when I say north, I'm talking about Wisconsin and Minnesota, has been on docks. Primarily for largemouth, but I have caught a bunch of smallies out from under docks as well. When we started the close-up segments, we said that the docks provide shade, somewhere to live, areas of food aggregation, where food comes together, small fish come together because they may feel safe, whether it be around the legs of the docks or in the shade under the docks or whatever under the boat lifts, whatever the case might be, and areas in a lake where bass may breed. Good. Something that applies to northern and southern lakes is that at all times, the number of bass or the frequency of bass under docks will be dictated by several things. Number one is sunlight, because it creates massive areas of shade. Number two, what's around the dock or what's growing on the dock is what will draw the bass's food source to the dock. And number three, weather. Now, with weather, we can say that time of year plays a role in that, and we're going to get into that in detail. Again, guys, this is very, very detailed. Good. So, when you are looking for docks, when you go to the chosen body of water that you are going to fish, and you are looking for, you would like to go and target docks, it is not accurate to just say, if you look for that and go and do that and find that, there'll be fish under there. That is not the case at all. There are certain times of the year, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated, guys, because we're talking about North and South America, okay? But we are going to generalize, absolutely generalize. There are certain times of the year when dock fishing can be better than others. Generally speaking, you will find bass under docks, generally speaking. In the north, it may take a little bit longer in the year, because when the docks get put in, the bass have to find the docks again, or they come from surrounding areas of the lake, and they will establish a territory under those docks, for want of a better expression. But there are certain times of the year that I have found when fish will congregate under docks more than at other times of the year. Okay, so let's understand that together. If you have docks in your lake that have deep water on the ends of the docks relative to the depth of the lake, in other words, if you live on a shallow lake, you will notice that the docks from the distance from the bank to where you tie your boat up will be a lot further than on lakes that are deeper or more, possibly more bluffy lakes, drop-off, where the drop-offs are closer to the bank. You will see that the length of the docks to where you tie a boat up is a lot shorter. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you live on a shallow lake, say the average depth of the lake is 15 foot, which is common in quite a few southern lakes, and also in quite a few northern lakes, to be honest. And you have 2 to 3 foot on the end of a dock, depth of the water here. And the next dock down the bank, and this is where your map work comes into play, guys. There may be a slight drop-off going 500 yards down the bank, and the next dock down the bank has 5 to 7 foot on the end of the dock. There is a very strong chance that the better fish are going to come off the deeper docks. Deeper water is darker water, and darker water is more comfortable for fish to live in when you have lakes with clear water. Number one. Number two, if you live in a lake where the average depth of the water is deep, and we're going to say 15 foot plus, and the docks on the lake are the majority of the only shallow water cover or structure on that lake, there is a very good chance that you are going to have exceptional fishing under those shallower docks. So it's a complete flip-flop, one to the other. There's always going to be a happy medium. So my general rule of thumb is look for the docks with the deepest water on the end of the dock, and make your start at those docks first. How do I do that? Drive past the front of it with your boat. Bank fishing, guys, this is a tricky one for you, because the approach from the bank is completely different than it is from the boat. So if you're driving down a bank that's got 20 docks on it, do a drive-by. Don't get right up on the dock. Stay a boat length away and do a drive-by. Watch your graph, your fish finder, your sonar, whatever you want to call it. And as you go past the docks, watch it. Say the first dock is 4 foot, the second dock is 4 foot, the third dock is 4 foot, fifth dock, 8 foot. Put a waypoint on it. Don't stop, carry on driving. And do that whole stretch. And at the same time that you're doing that, say you've got a fishing partner with you in the boat, look for the docks that have the most crap on them. Boats, boat lifts, cables, the most number of legs. If there's stuff on top of the docks which can create shade, anything like that, make a mental note of it. Drive that whole stretch of water. Once you've made your waypoints, turn around, come back and start fishing. If you do that exercise and all the docks on that bank are the same depth, and you go to another bank and all the docks on that bank are the same depth, just start fishing. You have no choice. Then you start looking for docks that have got more crap on them than other docks, which will create more shade, more opportunities for bait fish to gather below the docks, etc., etc., etc. Whilst you are driving, doing your drive-by down the front of those docks, look for brush piles off the front of the docks. It will attract bass to the docks. Look for schools of bait off the front of the docks. It will attract bass to the docks. Look where people may have put underwater lights. You'll see cables going into the water in front of their docks or under their docks. That will attract bass to the docks. You understand what I say, guys, when I say this is super complicated and you need it to absorb it in small chunks. And we're just getting started. Okay. That is how I determine whether there is going to be a dock fishing pattern on a lake or not. Most of the year. Okay, guys? Most of the year. When you go and you hit several docks in several parts of the lake and you do not get bit, abandon the pattern completely and go and do something else for a couple of hours. Come back to the docks if you've got a good feeling about those docks and give it another half an hour, 45 minutes. If you don't get bit, abandon the docks. Go away. Go and do something else. Maybe wait till late afternoon once the sun starts to go over a little bit. Go back and try the docks again. This is not something, it can be something that you just go on and start killing fish under docks. It absolutely can be that. But there will be times where you'll go and hit 15, 20 docks and you'll go, the fish are just not here. They may well be there. They are just not feeding at that time of day. So that is always something you want to consider, guys. Okay. Do not be stubborn and fish docks for the sake of fishing docks because on your previous fishing trip, you thumped the fish under docks on that lake. I have done that so many times in my life where it has not worked and it has cost me a good day's fishing because 10 boat lengths away from me on the first drop away from the dock, the fish have repositioned themselves and guys have clubbed them on the first drop away from the dock. And I've just been pressuring the docks because and not getting bit because that's what I did yesterday. So just be aware of that, guys. Right. Time of day. I want to be really clear on this, guys, because I feel that this applies throughout the year. You know, and when I say throughout the year, I mean for the northern guys, when the docks are in the water, and for the southern guys all year round. Okay, and this is again super important. We are, for this part of the exercise, we are going to say that this is a sunny day and just leave it at that. We're not talking about temperature or anything like that. We're going to say it's a sunny day. Okay? And again, guys, this is super important because it can make the difference between you catching fish and not catching fish. So we wake up in the morning. It's a nice sunny day with little to no wind. We're going to go out. We want to straight away want to tackle docks. Now, a lot of guys will tell you, don't fish docks until the sun comes up. And I am going to tell you right now, that is not true. Okay? Not at all. So we're going to talk about time of day. We're not going to talk about techniques. We're going to talk about time of day for tackling docks. Because not everybody is blessed to be able to go and fish a lake all day long. Some guys are just nipping out for a couple of hours in the morning before work or a couple of hours in the afternoon after work. Not everybody is blessed enough to be able to do it all day long. Okay, here we go. And we're going to keep this simple, guys. one of the big things that we spoke about with docks is that docks create shade. Okay? That is something that you need to be aware of. If you go back to the Minnesota 3 video, there's a part there where I explain this in more detail. I'm just going to do it quickly here. Fish don't have eyelids. They cannot close their eyes. They are super affected by light, and it affects every part of their life, from the spawn to feeding to where they live, all of those kind of things. Regardless of the clarity of the water, we're going to get into that a little bit later on, okay? When the sun is high, they need somewhere to hide, or to a point which they can ambush from. So first thing in the morning and last thing in the afternoon, low light, the fish will move to the fronts of the docks. So you can see in this particular picture here, the opportunities that we have, okay? Forget about the direction of the sun for now. We're talking about low light, dusk and dawn. The opportunities that we have are here, 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 and here. That will directly affect what your lure choice will be. That's the most important thing. Forget about the depth of the water, forget about the sun, forget about all of those things. Dusk and dawn will directly affect what your lure choice will be. We'll talk about lure choice a little bit later. At those times of day, and again, we're generalizing here, guys, the fish will move up in the water column, so they'll generally be closer to the surface, and they'll be looking up, they'll be hunting. So that straight away there tells you they can dart back into there if they're sitting on the front of these docks ready to ambush. There is a shadow created by all of this here. The dock itself is the ambush point. The shade under the dock is the ambush point. But in periods of low light, they do not need to utilize the darker parts of the dock to ambush from. They can use the fronts because there's nothing, the sun is not hitting those points yet. Okay. At those times of day, bait fish species are also more active. So your pelagic bait fish species, your shoaling bait fish species will be active, and they will roam further away from the dock because there is less of a threat to them in low light conditions. And guys, this also includes overcast or rainy days. It is the same thing applies. So that is why the bass will use the fronts or the front edges of the docks as ambush points to ambush food in low light conditions. Good. Yeah. Now, as the sun starts to rise, and guys, we are generalizing here, okay? Haters, please don't get on and start telling me different hemispheres, blah, 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 blah. Okay? We are generalizing. I understand all of that. We are learning about docks here. We are doing what it requires to learn how to fish a dock. So please, don't get on me in the comments saying in different hemispheres the sun is different. I know all of those things. I'm aware of all of those things. Thank you. As the sun starts to rise And if you look carefully on the picture, you'll see my hand is actually casting a shadow onto the dock. Okay? As the sun starts to rise, let's say that that shadow is the rays of the sun starting to shine on the dock. And if you watch what happens, the shadow moves towards the front of the dock like that. And eventually later in the day, over the top of the dock, and then as it goes away, so that the light will go away as well. So you saw, there's the sun here. It comes up, those fish that were sitting there in low light conditions now start to push back as that sun gets higher and higher and higher in the sky, and it pushes the fish further back under the dock. Now, once they get out of the direct sunlight under the dock, they will feel safe. So whether they get up tight next to a pole, or whatever the case, under the boat lift on this side, or whatever the case might be, once they get out of that direct sunlight, they will feel safer. However, what happens when the sun gets higher in the sky? It illuminates, particularly in lakes that have stained to clear water. The sunlight illuminates all the water around the dock. So those bait fish species that were cruising around that dock in the low light condition, that the bass were ambushing from just on the front of the docks, now have to find somewhere to go. So those of you that say that the bass will not feed at midday under the docks, blah, 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 not so. Where do the bait fish go to when the sun gets high in the sky? They either have to bugger off somewhere else completely different because they know that it's dangerous under those docks because the bass live there, or they get under the docks and they get tight to these, whatever structure is underneath the docks, or these brush piles which may or may not be sitting just off the front of the dock. So that's where the brush piles become important, guys. Okay? Okay. That's going to do it for part 2. I think there's going to be one more video, guys. For those of you that have stuck it up this far, well done. Big topic, and it's something that you need to understand if you want to learn how to fish docks. It can really, learning to fish docks effectively can really take an average fishing day and turn it into a great fishing day. Any fishing day on the water is a good day, but from the fishing perspective, and again, it's not always the case. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.